touching on the top prop bets in the NBA today. All right, so I want to start this video real quickly with an NHL bet because I feel like the number is going to be gone this afternoon. Okay, so I just want to get that out to as many people as quickly as possible. So looking at Brad right now, his over 2.5 shots is looking pretty appealing. So his shots on goal right now is minus 145. Okay, on DK Sportsbook. And now that could be wrong compared to other sportsbooks, but at the same time, we can easily see that we are getting a very good number there. So I wanted to point that out at the start of the video because either like DK Sportsbook could be wrong. Okay, that could easily be accurate, but more likely than not, this number is going to go up to 3 by the end of the day. And so at minus 145, they are saying it's about a 59.2% chance to get the over. And then at plus 105, they're saying it's about a 49% chance to get the under. So it's looking like a pretty strong bet there. All right, so getting to the NBA side of it, this slate is looking much better than yesterday's slate, just right out the bat. So I'm pretty excited for this. And on top of that, it is going to be a Taco Tuesday as well. On top of that as well, they are giving us this free bet as well. So today should be, theoretically speaking, a strong day. Okay, it should be one in which we can attack. So looking at the first one that I'd like, it's going to be looking at New York versus Cleveland. So first things first, this game is expected to stay close. 3.5 points, that's not enough for me to really worry about the blowout risk too much. Okay, the game over and under isn't set too high. I was hoping it'd be a little bit higher there, but this is a very intriguing game. So looking at it right now, Donovan Mitchell is at minus 130 or minus 135 to get the over points of 25.5, which is looking like a pretty strong bet there. Now he's currently questionable, and that I think that's part of the reason why we are getting this number, because we can see on the season averages over that. Okay, over 25.5 at 28.4, and New York isn't like their weakness defensively would be at guarding the guards. And if we look at his 2 games against New York thus far this season, he had 20 shot attempts, so was able to score 38 real life points. Then now he played them another time and he struggled in that game, okay? But he did still shoot the ball 22 times and had 23 points, okay? Was terrible shooting the basketball. And to me, if we just look at his game log, we can see really strong night shooting, really strong night shooting, poor night shooting, strong night shooting. So it just seemed to be one of those games in which he was shooting the basketball so well for quite a while that it just regrets. You know, that's just going to happen. So this bet does make a lot of logical sense. It does feel like a very strong bet. And like that bet is somewhat predicated on that groin injury now popping up. And I think that's why we are getting, you know, a pretty solid number, because there is that injury risk. Now we're looking at Julius Randle, and you guys know my thoughts by now on betting the under. I don't love to do it for the most part, but looking at Julius Randle, we can see 3 out of the last 5 games, he has been at the under. And if we pull up his game log against Cleveland thus far this season, he's went for 18 and 15 points. Okay. Really kind of struggled against them. And so you could take that 2 ways. It's like, oh, he's had 2 bad games against Cleveland. He's most likely going to have a good game now, which I'm not saying that'd be a bad argument, but I would say, you know, we know that the Cleveland Bigs are pretty strong defensively. And I would say that's the primary reason that he has been struggling. And now, just as an FYI, with Mitchell Robinson off the court, who's been ruled out, Randle does average about 27.5 points per 36, which is a little bit higher than his per game average. So it's far from like a lock and load. Now, this is going to be like the last one of the really strong favorable odds that we're getting on DK Sportsbook compared to kind of how PrizePicks is valuing them. And then we're going to get into some really kind of strong per 36 numbers that we're looking at because of some injuries that are out there. You know, Dallas has been kind of a nice spot for us with Christian Wood being out. So I'll touch on that in just a second. And at the end of this video, we do have another pretty strong NHL bet that I'll touch on. But look at that JVAL. 16.5 points. DK Sportsbook is saying it's about a minus 130 chance that he gets the over, which odds-wise is about a 56% chance, okay? So not perfect, but not terrible as well. We can see he's been over that for all the past 5 games against Miami. Not exactly a matchup you would be targeting too much. Got the under there. But with JVAL, I feel like it's very important to point out that if we knew he for sure was going to get 30 minutes, like, yes, we would just lock and load this, but we don't. And I also want to point out the fact that against Denver the last time out, I mean, he was very productive, okay, in a very limited minutes, 14 minutes, 13 points. He got into foul trouble, okay? And he is someone that can be prone to foul trouble. So it's really a bet on 2 things, the minutes being there, and why would the minutes be there? Because he's not going to get into foul trouble. So you're really just betting on him not getting into foul trouble. And so what would help him not get into foul trouble? If Jokic was to sit, okay? So it's kind of, and this is the tough part about NBA DFS, it's like it is set on so many independent variables, but that's why there can be an edge as well. But this is very much a, if Jokic is out, it's a very strong bet. If he's active, he can still get there. So it's not a terrible bet. All right, so like I had mentioned, we had kind of been attacking the Mavericks players the last couple of games with Christian Wood out because PrizePicks had not really adjusted their props, given the fact that Christian Wood was out. And so this could be kind of a unique stacking opportunity for us as well. The biggest issue that we have with this game, and I'll touch on the Washington side because that is going to be pretty appealing as well. Probably the most appealing that we're going to get. This game could potentially blow out. So that's the biggest worry with this game, is the potential for blowout. And it's not that high scoring of a game. And that's what's very strange, guys, is that we are not getting that many high scoring games thus far on this slate. The highest one is 236. We've seen 240. We've seen like 250, recently. So just kind of strange there. But looking at it, yes, there is a slight risk to the potential blowout. Obviously, we're hoping that doesn't blow out too early. If it does, we're hoping that these guys get their final rotation. But looking at Spencer Dinwiddie, has been over 17.5 points the last 5 games. And if we go back further, it's kind of been like every other for the most part. Okay, so not terrible there as well. Against Washington, now this was at Washington, his former team, went for 33 points against them. So, that's all pretty encouraging there for Spencer Dinwiddie. I feel like this should be a strong bet. I don't like the fact that I think it was 15.5 the last 2 nights. Now it's 17.5 because he has been going off. But looking at his per 36 with Christian Wood off the court, he averages 20 real life points. Okay, and he has been getting close to that 36 number as long as it's not a blowout. Even if it is a blowout, he could be the reason why it does blow out. But he does average 20 real life points with Christian Wood off the court per 36, about 3.7 rebounds, about 4.7 assists, 23% usage rate, and about 33 fantasy points. So we can see he's not really stuffing the stat sheet too much elsewhere, and that's kind of why I do like betting the points. Typically speaking, I kind of like to do fantasy score because I have a better mindset for that. But obviously in the morning, we're not getting fantasy score because, well, they don't know how to properly value those as much as they do these bets because they are pulling these in from other sports books and whatnot. Fantasy points, that's kind of their own equation. So we're not getting that just yet. But for Spencer Dinwiddie, I don't think we would do that. And I don't think we would do that for Tim Hardaway Jr. as well. So I don't really love this one. At the same time, it should be a good one in theory as long as the minutes are there. So like THJ's role doesn't really change too much, although he does get up a few more shot attempts with Christian Wood off the court. And remember that game against Miami, guys? I thought he was going to be a really strong bet for the over points there. Had a terrible night shooting. And so then against the Clippers, I was like, okay, because he had that poor night shooting, should be a really strong bet to get the over today. And that ended up happening. And so because we've kind of seen both, I'm like, what are we going to get tonight now? 16.5 points is more than the 14.5 as well. So don't really love that as well, that we've seen his point increase. And the game isn't exactly projected to be that high scoring. We can see against them the last time out, 16 points. So this is very much more or less a bet in which you could make, like let's say you think Dinwiddie's going to struggle, then someone like Hardaway Jr. would then be the better bet. I don't know if we can pair them together. You can if you want, and I'll show you guys how we can stack this game because it is going to be an appealing game to stack. And then for Luka, it kind of actually feels a little bit like a stay away for him. 34.5 points is a lot. Okay, with Christian Wood off the court, he actually only averages 32 points, about 9.3 rebounds, 8 assists. He has a huge usage rate of 38% though, and he does average 57 fantasy points. So maybe if we get fantasy points below 55, that'd be a spot in which you could attack it. But yeah, we can see Luka's kind of been struggling lately in terms of points. And so that's another bet. Like if Dinwiddie and THJ are scoring the points, then someone like Luka isn't going to be. It goes hand in hand that way. And now this one, in theory, I don't want to say should be a lock, but is looking like a very great bet. So the Washington Wizards just traded Hachimura to the Lakers for Kendrick Nunn. And I think we can assume that Nunn is going to sit tonight. You never know with that, but that really shouldn't affect this play. Porzingis is looking like he's going to sit. He's listed as out. Okay. So looking at that all adds up to Gafford being a really strong bet. And his points, look at his per 36 numbers, okay? Averages 17.4 points with Porzingis and Hachimura off the court. And I don't know if they're just not factoring that in just yet. And we can see over the last 3 games, getting limited minutes, he's been able to get the over as well. Looking at his rebounds, though, he averages 10 rebounds per 36 and like about 1.3 assists. His fantasy points are going to be 30, okay? And that's per 36 once again. And so I was looking at it, guys. I'm like, man, to get 18 points, rebounds, and assists at this, that's pretty good. I mean, points, rebounds, and assists, or just points and rebounds. And so I'm just going to assume that we are going to get closer to 30 minutes with him with those 2 players off the court, which we have seen a decent amount, when he gets like 29, 28 minutes, we can see 12 rebounds, 10 points, 4 rebounds. Okay. We can see that he kind of consistently gets over this number. And now he isn't someone that like demands or commands a high minute workload. So we can't really 100% use those per 36 numbers, but just look at the games in which he is getting, like, let's just say over 20 minutes. He would be over the points and rebounds at 18.5 in basically all of the game. Okay, so looking like in theory it should be a strong bet, and this is where you could potentially stack that game. Like you could run a Gafford Dinwiddie stack. If you want to go further, you could do Luka fantasy points or Luka under 32 points. Toss in THJ then, because that would correlate. If Luka's not going to be scoring points, it's going to be Hardaway and Dinwiddie. Like Gafford's looking like a pretty strong bet today. And don't get me wrong, I know that the pace for the Mavericks is slower, and that's why the game over and under is set lower than a typical Washington Wizards game. At the same time, these numbers are pretty low. So I'm somewhat wondering, because we have seen Bradley Beal struggle lately. Okay, we knew that he was coming back from an injury though and whatnot. I'm kind of wondering though if like the trade talks, like if the trade talks with the Lakers were originally for Beal. I don't know. It's just speculation for me. At the same time, like he just hasn't been getting as many minutes. So once again, this is very much a bet on the minutes being increased tonight. If we know that we're going to get the same typical minutes that we would get out of Bradley Beal, then he's going to be a strong bet at this price. We can see he averages 22.5 points on the season. And so at 23.5, we can see not the best bet, but I want to show you guys or tell you guys with Christian Wood off the court, he averages 30. Not Christian Wood. With Porzingis and Hachimura off the court, he averages 30 points per 36. So we definitely need him to get closer to those minutes. But if he does, that can be a pretty appealing bet. So he could be someone that you use in a stack as well. So just looking at a couple of NHL bets, I already showed you guys Brad. He is looking like he's going to be a strong one at minus 145 on DK Sportsbook. Those are some pretty good odds. Those odds are going to be tough to pass up on. Once again, those are much better odds than we're getting anywhere on NBA DFS, this NBA DFS slate where, you know, Donovan Mitchell minus 135 were the best odds that we were getting on DK Sportsbook in comparison to how PrizePicks is valuing them. And now another decent one that we're going to get is the under here of 3 goals or shots on goal. Actually, disregard this. This number has changed. Okay, so never mind. This number has changed. That'd be a bet that would be forcing in there. All right, here's a pretty decent good one. We got Eric under 2.5 shots on goal, and we can see over his last 5 games he's been under that a pretty decent amount. DK Sportsbook has him at minus 140 to get the under there, so that's another pretty strong bet NHL wise. Once again, the minus 140 numbers we just don't get in NBA. They're not out there. All right, so here's another one where the under is looking pretty appealing here at minus 140 for Alex. 2.5 shots on goal, you know, pretty good odds there. So for today's bet, and guys, there's Taco Tuesday, so like you could use these players in those Taco Tuesdays bets as well as with the NFL bet that's out there. Like increase our odds. You know, that is really what we're trying to do here. And so by chasing someone like Brad that has minus 145 odds, that's going to be huge. Okay, those are some pretty good odds. And chances are, you know, typically speaking, he's going to be able to hit that. So over shots on goal 2.5, you know, just tough to pass up on those great odds. And then I also like Gafford over 18.5 points and rebounds. Okay, we might get a better number for fantasy points, but right now this is seeming like the best bet that we're going to get. And it doesn't seem like DK Sportsbook is properly valuing him based off of Hachimura being gone, or even PrizePicks as well, based off of Hachimura being gone and based off of Porzingis being out. So those are some 2 pretty good numbers that we're getting. And so you guys can use these as one bet together, or you guys can pair them off, you know, with the free Joe Burrow bet, with the Taco Tuesday bets that we get there. I would say with both of them, I think the numbers are going to go up. And so that's the difficult part. So hopefully they are still there when you guys make your bet. But that's all I have for you guys for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to give a like and subscribe. That helps me continue to be able to pump out more content for you guys. All right, let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.